All right, well, we're going to go ahead and call the Wednesday, June 11th, 2025 HDRB meeting to order. First order of business. We have minutes from the last meeting. Packet is missing the minutes, but I think there should be some in. All right, so does anyone have any? I was not here at that meeting, so I'll be abstaining, but in fact, we're going to hold this. We only have 2 members present, so we'll hold the minutes till next meeting.
Okay.
We'll move on to the agenda items. We have 3 items today. The first one is 1114 Congress Street, and we'll have staff go ahead and introduce that project. Tell us what we're here for.
We'll make this really simple. It should just take a second. They're just requesting a COA approval in chapter 9.1. COAs get 2 years. And then they can be renewed for 1-year periods 5 times, but it has to come before the HRB. And so they obviously haven't started on the project, but it was essentially approved almost exactly 2 years ago in June by this HRB, and we see no reason not to renew it. And that's all it is. And I know you have the original plans and everything in the packet. I don't believe they're requesting any changes or anything. So, but the applicant's here.
Okay. I don't know, with those words said, I'm not sure we need to have the applicant come up and speak on this.
Entirely up to you.
Yeah, unless they have a desire to. They're in the audience. No? Okay. You want to have a problem with doing an extension on a certificate of appropriateness as per code? No? All right. Entertain a motion.
I motion.
So we have a motion.
Second.
Second. Okay. Any other further questions? Anyone online wish to question this? We have any?
I believe Grady is joined through Zoom. Is he here on Zoom yet?
Oh, looks like we have a Grady's iPad. Give me a moment.
Not yet.
Just so when you vote, he's on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm gonna
On
go.
yet?
I'm gonna promote him to a panelist, so he should be able to speak freely after that.
Well, see, he took the trouble to join us by Zoom. Let's let him opine on this.
I'm here, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Woods, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
All right, the agenda item is an extension of a COA for a project. Are you okay with extending it?
Yes, sir, I am.
Vote.
Aye.
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 All right. So we have- Thank you, Mr. Woods. All right, we'll go ahead and close that one out. That's the first item. We'll go to item B, which is 313 Charles Street. We'll get the introduction of this project.
Afternoon, members of the board. I'll be presenting the staff report for 314 Charles Street. So let's see. The request is to install 2 storm doors, one on the front door and one on the rear door of the property. The property is 314 Charles Street, otherwise known as the Sarah Gibbs Barnwell House. It's a contributing structure from 1855. It's in the shaded X flood zone. The zoning district is T4N. A quick timeline of the project. The applicants came to the HTRC back in May 14th. They received comments from staff. They applied for the HRB meeting May 28th. And here we are, June 11th for the HRB meeting. So just to give a little bit more background, and as you can see in the slides, there's the zoning map, the aerial map of its location in the historic district. There's a street view of the house. You can see on the south side, it's vacant lot. You've got on the north side, across the street, 1.5 story brick veneer office buildings, non-contributing. And then to the west, across the street, is a parking lot for, I believe, the Beaufort Inn. But there's the house. So give some more background. It's 2 storm doors, one on the front of the house, not on the second story, just on the first floor. Nothing's being proposed to be put on that second story there. The proposed storm doors as presented are specifically made by Anderson for this property. Because the property has some unique dimensions for the doors. The proposal is for the storm door to be constructed of aluminum, painted black with a full glass view. So just to go a little bit further, there's the just kind of the design, the warranty from Anderson. And before we get into the integrity guidelines, the applicant has provided, which you should have in your packet, some examples of other neighboring properties that have storm doors, aluminum storm doors. So we look at the slides. Here's 1609 North Street. They've got a painted white aluminum storm door. I believe there currently are a law office. Next example is 1411 Bay Street, which I believe is just a private residence, but they also have a aluminum framed storm door. And then the other example is 1207 Bay Street, which again also appears to have an aluminum storm door on the front door of their house. So getting into the integrity guidelines and rationales present for this project, we believe it meets all of them except for the material, specifically the aluminum. We feel that the aluminum is not appropriate for a historic district as the preservation manual outlines for us. The other, the location, the design, the setting, the workmanship, the feeling and the association, staff believes are all being met. The main concern is really just with the aluminum material. So basically based off of that, our staff recommendation is to recommend final approval of the storm doors with the caveat that the applicant switch to a wooden framed storm door instead of aluminum. Staff believes that would be more appropriate for the historic district. And yeah, that is all.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation. We'll have the applicant, before we open public comment, we'll have the applicant come up and tell us what they're trying to do. If they want to add, they don't need to. You can, yes, sir. If you have something you want to tell us about what you're trying to do, we'll have a chance to ask you questions again after public comment. Go ahead and go up to the microphone though, so they can record it. Please, sir.
I'm Scott Halp, the owner with my wife Marilyn Marino of 314 Charles Street. And one thing we found as we drove around to take those photos of houses is that from the road on almost all these houses, it was very difficult to tell whether the doors were aluminum or wood. The reason we want to go aluminum is because we don't have to paint them every 4 years. And it would save us a little on maintenance costs. One thing we found is it's very difficult to find somebody who will make a wood storm door, and we would love recommendations from you all if you have some. We'd appreciate that information. We talked to Pella, they don't do it anymore. We talked to a company over in Beaufort, Premier Doors, and they bluffed and they don't do it anymore. I've talked to a few and they don't do it. If you all insist on the wood for the front door, there wasn't a photo shown of the back door. The back door is not that visible. We take good care of the house. We've invested a lot of money in it, and we appreciate your favor.
Great. We may call you back up when we get into presentation. We'll first go to public comment period. So go ahead and call the public up. I see Ms. Sunderlow, new Director of Historic Beaufort Foundation. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here today. Lisa Sunderlow with the Historic Beaufort Foundation. I'm in agreement with staff's recommendation. This is an important structure, and right now, it's only one of what had been multiple residential structures along that block. So it's unfortunate that we're down to one, but very happy that we were able to have this one still standing today. The concern, I think, with going wood versus aluminum, one, the preservation manual does make that very specific requirement and recommendation. But I think in this particular case, you want, as a contributing property, the Sarah Gibbs Barnwell property that has high esteem within our community, I think we really want to do the best for it. And we did provide Mr. Hulk a recommendation for who to go to look for wooden storm doors in that email that I had sent you last week. I don't know if he's followed up with them or not. That was also a recommendation that came from Jeremy Tate, the staff architect, to go with Adams Construction. They are able to create wooden storm doors in a variety of sizes and uses. So I think it's worth taking a look at that and seeing if he's able to find one that he likes there or another one that that fits their budget. But I think keeping it wood will go a long way with showing best practices for what to do with historic structures. If there are others that have aluminum doors, they may have been missed, over the years. Who knows, what the history is of those. But I think we don't look at a mistake that was made previously and use that as a precedent to go forward. But thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment in the audience or online?
Nobody online, sir.
Hearing none, I'll go ahead and, yes, sir, hang on a minute.
Just
Go
got
ahead.
one small comment to add. I did go out to some of these sites to verify if they were indeed aluminum or not, because we weren't sure. I wasn't able to check on 1207 Bay Street or 1411 Bay Street since I believe they were private residences, but I did confirm that 1609 North Street is indeed an aluminum storm door. So it's like that.
Thank you. All right, we'll close the public comment period and go ahead and bring it up to diocese for discussion. We have 4 members present, 1 via Zoom.
Mr. Chairman,
So what do you think, Grady?
well, I need to recuse myself, Mr. Chairman. I was a prior property owner at 314 Charles Street. We sold it last year to the house, so I'm going to recuse myself, please.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you.
All right. So you guys' thoughts on this? And I will tell you, I don't have a problem with aluminum fixtures because actually the Milner guidelines speaks about aluminum being unpainted metals, and it was used not particularly for storm doors, but in that reference. But the way the guidelines actually read is that if you can install something that you can remove without harm to the structure, then it's successful application. It's kind of ridiculous, I think, and I'm talking to my board members here, that we send people off to get wooden products made in the environment we're in to create the illusion they don't have a storm door, when the reality is whether it's wood or aluminum, it's still a storm door. In this case, it's the black color or painted. You can paint wood and I drive by, it's gonna look just like aluminum door painted brown, right? Or trimmed black or brown.
Mhm.
So I'm not in support of the staff's comments or HPF's comments on the fact that it shouldn't be done. And I think these are the type adaptations that we need to do to make our homes fit the current climate as far as the built environment. Because the reality is when that house was built, it did not have air conditioning. Okay, it did not have storm windows or any protections like that on it. To me, this is not going to harm the building. So I'm going to be in support of it unless I have a good, strong case that we shouldn't do it.
Well, the thing that I thought of, first of all, was that it is not a permanent fixture. And that's why it doesn't bother me as much, because they can be removed. It's not like a window that will be aluminum. So it doesn't bother me either. I think anything that will keep the maintenance down, keep the cost down. And it's within the guidelines.
Yeah, I think the same argument too, if it had been applied as that fiberglass storm door, which we allow on certain applications for windows on new construction.
Right.
That would the argument from Milner with the reference to being aluminum still apply? And Miller doesn't speak to fiberglass windows or doors. It only speaks to aluminum, but that's in a time frame when there were corrugated aluminum panels, there were aluminum siding being used, there were some other factors involved, aluminum storm windows that were, in fact, that's, I believe the reference is because storm windows come in aluminum bright and they come in painted white, right? And you could probably get them in ultimate colors. So I think when Miller did that survey, the aluminum storm windows in the bright metal was the objection. And now we're warp speed another 30, 40 years ahead, and into time, we realize that we have a problem with our wood products in this environment.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think?
I would prefer that it be wood, just because like, as Ms. Sunderla said, I would not like it to be a precedent for other structures. However, I think it's very tastefully done. So I really don't have a problem with it. I think it's fine. And as you said, it's not a permanent fixture. So I would love for it to be wood, but
All right, and I don't see any reason to debate this any further. I'd call the question for somebody to ask for a motion if we can.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Or to approve this as the aluminum, blah, blah, I've been doing that all day, as the aluminum example that you presented. I think that's.
I second that motion.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call the vote. I'll go ahead and vote supportive.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Woods abstains, so Anderson storm door is approved.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, all right. All right, we'll bring Grady back. We're gonna go to item C. We'll have staff go ahead and present that one.
Good afternoon, board members. So 914 Newcastle Street was already before you in April, so at your meeting, April 9th. It is a corner lot at Newcastle and Green Street. The map shows the location. It's actually also located across from Washington Park. The zoning is T4HN, Historic Neighborhood. Here's a street view of how it currently looks like, or how it has looked like in 22, which is basically pretty much the same today. You can see some palmetto trees. You can see some specimen landmark trees on the perimeter, which are to be preserved and incorporated. The request is for a new house to be built on this vacant lot for the Kearns family. The rendering of the new house has been slightly revised since our last meeting. This is a sketch that you're seeing on the screen here. So when we first came together in April, you had some comments about, or also the HTRC when it was brought to the HTRC meeting in March, on March 5th. Basically, to summarize the concerns, we had the HTRC and you had some concerns, or you heard some concerns about the massing and the scaling of the house. You had some questions about how does it fit into the neighborhood, into the historic pattern of it, the development pattern of the neighborhood. How does it fit into the district by design, architectural design? Does it actually obey the prevailing average setbacks that that our development code talks about? How does it actually fit on the lot? There is a 55% lot coverage maximum for anything roofed area, like covered by roofs. So the house itself is proposed to be 2853 square feet of conditioned space. The roofed area of the entire project, the single family dwelling, is going to be over 3,000, slightly over 3,000 square feet. So that brings us to a coverage of 52%. Okay, the maximum is actually 55%. Lot coverage by roofs, if you add additional 10% by development code, you can cover it by impervious surfaces up to 65%, okay? So they meet that standard, they do. The applicant went back to analyze what the prevailing setbacks on that block are. The way, and after my presentation, you can also ask the applicant. So how they went about to kind of research this is they went from the center line of Green Street and measured the distance from the center line to the front facades of the existing houses. And some of them are historic and are on the National Register. So the subject property would be, if built, 33 feet and 2 inches from the center line, Green Street, to the front facade. The average on Green Street, if you take all of the existing houses into account, is 35. So they are kind of sort of in that realm, okay? This shows, again, the footprint, the proposed footprint here on the screen of the single family dwelling. Property size, overall, the lot size is 918 square feet. Roof coverage, slightly over 3,000, brings you to 52%. So they're meeting that standard, as I said before. So looking at the house again, we have some elevations, the street side elevations as revised. You can see here, the facts are, it's a 4-bedroom house, including the master bedroom, which is located in between the main house and a attached garage with a in-law suite above on the second floor. We have a apartment, as I said, a loft over the garage. We have 3 additional bedrooms in the main house. You can see on the picture here, that's how the elevation looks like from facing Green Street. This elevation is the rear and the side. And so I went forward and actually compared the 2 conceptual plans. So the one that was presented to you in April with the revised plans now. The main concerns at your last meeting were you were asking the applicant if they could maybe scale back the roof pitch from what was then to 10-12 to maybe 9-12 as a ratio, kind of come down with the overall height of the main house, maybe from like 9 feet. It was suggested coming down from 9 feet to 8 foot 6 inches. So the applicant went back and did those changes. The roof pitches have been reduced. The second floor ceilings on the main house, which is facing that corner, Green Street, Newcastle, have been reduced from 9 foot to 8 foot and 6 inches overall, addressing that overall massing scaling issue that you and also members of HTRC had before. Looking further at some comments that were made, we had talked, or you had talked also about the tabby finish on the raised slab. It was kind of recommended to not use tabby for that. So they went back and actually switched that out with hog boards and brick veneer on the CMU piers. So the tabby finish was removed. The chimney, as you can see, has also been changed. It was a kind of a stucco finish before. Now they're changing it to a brick veneer look. And looking also at the property at the rear of the side where like the mechanical installations, like the HVAC units, the trash cans and so forth are, they added some screening around that to kind of screen that from the adjacent property as well. So, at your last meeting, so we talked about massing and scaling. We talked about reducing the overall height of the house, which the applicant has done. They've went back to revise that. They've changed the tabby finish on the slab, the raised slab. They have also submitted in your packets, you will find some specs, some cut sheets on the materials that they're using, including windows and door details. They have shown that the proposed house does fit into the prevailing setback lines, also the lot coverage ratios that are mandated by our development code. So they have basically done their homework, and they've basically provided what you have asked them to provide at your last meeting. So with all that, if we look at the integrity guidelines that we usually use for infill development within the historic district, so these 7 guidelines: location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association. I can confidently, from a staff perspective, say that they all meet those. The location is a prominent location, that corner lot, with also existing historic buildings on the block, which are 2-story. It fits in, it blends in, it kind of emphasizes the location there, it gives it a little more an urban feeling to it. It kind of empowers that location. The design is good. We feel confident that the design is befitting to the neighborhood. It's a good infill development for that specific locale. Materials are good. They're representative of what is used around and has been used in the district. So our overall staff recommendation is now final approval, not preliminary as the last time, but final approval as the applicant has met the conditions of the HRB board.
Great, thank you very
Yes.
much for the staff report. We'll ask the applicant now if they'd like to come up and comment on the project.
So I've talked to Megan, and so in your packet, we weren't able to provide you with the spec sheets on the doors. That was one thing that was missing, so I asked Megan to make some copies on that to kind of, so if you want to pass that out. I think, and Megan, if you want to talk about some smaller revisions to the plans, the conceptual drawings of the architectural, the house itself too. I think you had some small changes too, or not? Some tweaks and some.
Most of them.
Okay, well, then go ahead. If you want to use
Thank
my
you.
slides, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you.
So the house is in here.
Thank you. My name is Megan Chancellor Crumrine. Thanks for being here today and letting me be here today. I think Christopher did a great job of summarizing all the changes we made, so thank you, Christopher. We took into account your feedback and information, and we thought the client and I talked about it and thought it was great information, and I think, made all of those changes and more. The client really wanted to change those piers over to brick, which I think was the right choice. So I think that was in addition to the staff comments, I believe so. So we've gone ahead and made all of the changes. Thank you for that information. And then also looking back to the staff comments of this last rendition, we are absolutely able to, number 3 and number 4, we're able to make those small notations per the windows, and also the smooth finish, wherever it is. We will absolutely note that.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so we've heard from the staff, from the city, and we've heard from the applicant. Now it's time to open the floor to public comment period. And Ms. Angela,
Good afternoon, Lisa Sunderland, Historic Beaufort Foundation. We had the pleasure of meeting with Megan for a second time last week and are very pleased with the changes that were made to minimize the height and the scale of the building. We think they've done that very successfully. There were a couple of questions that came up, which she was able to answer. One was the use of horizontal clapboard versus vertical clapboard on the second floor and the horizontal on the bottom. And it wasn't that we were in disagreement of it. We were just curious as to what the reasoning behind that. And I think Megan, if I recall correctly, it was just wanting something to be a little bit different than everybody else on the street. So we did not have any heartache with that at all. There was one other question I did have, though, about the asphalt shingle versus metal roof. Right now, it's got a metal roof on the porch overhang and then asphalt everywhere else. And I'm just curious as to why they chose to use differing roof, because you wouldn't normally have that. So if Miss Megan could answer that question, that would be helpful. Otherwise, we are fully in support of this project. Thank you.
Okay. We'll let her answer the question since you asked it, and I would be asking it anyway, so.
So this was something that we went back and forth. I went back and forth with the clients several times. Their goal was, in keeping with what Lisa said, was trying to keep that differentiation going on between the board and batten and the horizontal siding between the two forms to help break it up, because I was aware and they're aware that it is a large form. So that was one other technique that we were utilizing to do that.
How about the roof? Can you point the reason on the roof materials?
Same material,
Reason.
same reason. Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment? I see none in the audience. Do we have anybody online?
No, sir.
All right, we'll close the public comment period and bring it up to the diocese, and in this case, Mr. Woods can opine from afar. We've heard this one, we saw it before. They made some subtle changes based on comments from the last meeting. I think we all agree this was probably a bigger structure than what we'd normally like to see, but it does meet the requirements of our current codes and standards. It's kind of passed the test through Historic Beaufort Foundation's opinions. So let's see what the board has to say. Mr. Woods, you want to start off and tell us what you think?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think they've done a good job of addressing the items, comments, so I'm in favor of giving it final approval if it's consent of the other members. Thank you.
Okay, I'm hearing support from Mr. Wood for the project. Do we have anything up here on questions or?
I have a question about the chimney cap. That was something new, I believe, in that when I looked at it and looked at the size of the chimney already, then you're adding a 3.5-foot chimney cap, which, all right, I'm 5'2.5". So we're talking, it's from the floor to here, tall.
Yeah, it looks,
It seems a little large.
well, we can ask the applicant to come up
Yeah.
and tell us about that design feature. That's an architect component. Can you answer the question about how the doghouse on top of the chimney, it appears in the drawing to be kind of overly sized.
Bishop's
And
chimney.
it may be just simple elevation.
I can go back and look at it. That came from historical precedents. I can go back and look at the size, absolutely, if you would like it to be smaller. I don't think there would be any issue. We changed it because we went with the brick piers. So then we decided the fireplace should be brick as well. So that was just kind of the flow of that process and how it ended up there. But yeah, per code, it has to be the 10 and 2 rule. So maybe the historic houses weren't at that 10 and 2 rule per fire code, and that's why it's looking large, because it's at code compared to its historical precedents.
I think it's not the chimney that bothers me.
It's the
cap.
bishop's.
Cap, it does look very small.
The bishop's cap on top is
Yeah.
3.5 feet from
I
the
can look
top
at
of the
it.
chimney.
Yep, I can look at it.
So we may ask you to look at that. The comment I'd make related to that, the drawings obviously also often do not represent what the builder actually can put together. In this case, you're using a brick veneer, and so there has to be an armature, a substrate holding that up. And so
Yeah,
I think the massing of that piece
it's actually gonna come in.
will
yeah.
be different looking than
Yeah.
what is drawn. And I think that's the
Right.
thing you may
Okay.
see is at the end of the day, by the time you cast something up there, if you were gonna veneer it, which I've never seen anybody do, for a cap,
Correct.
then it would look different than this, right? So, I mean, we have to wait and see, but I guess what you're asking, and I agree with you, is that if you can alter the cap to make it more appropriate in scale, it would probably be more appropriate for this house. Now, we can go around town and surely see the little doghouse type caps on many homes. There's one across from the last project, across the Barnware House, that has 3 of them like this, they're tied together. So, but they don't appear this
Right, that large.
tall and thin, so anyway. All right, so that's a contention, and the height and elevation of chimneys are set in code, so it does appear very tall, but there's a formula they use for above ridge line that requires height, and so if that could be cut down, that'd be great, but if it's gonna be what it is if they build it to code.
Yeah.
Right?
I want it built to code.
All right, any other comments related to the project as presented?
I have a question.
Sure.
On the rear elevation, the windows above the garage doors, those are egress windows?
Correct, and we've double checked that. Yep.
And do awning windows actually open up with that eave hanging down to provide egress?
We triple checked it and yes, and I have it on my list for red lines this week to quadruple check
But
it.
I just,
It's-
because I was
yeah.
concerned if it didn't work, that you'd have to change that roof line or somehow to provide for the appropriate egress.
That was a big bone of contention and a big discussion and it should be good.
Great question. I've seen it installed where it didn't work, so please be careful.
Yes, no, I was on it.
All right, I think from the last meeting, they've done the things I was more concerned about at the last meeting. This one, and unfortunately, the trend is bigger, more. That's where we're at. That's where our code allows. This board is to look at architecture. This is the new construction architecture of the era. It meets the intent of Milder with similar materials arranged differently. It's on a corner lot. Milder guidelines also speak to corner lots as being a prevailing lot, meaning that they're more prominent. So usually on the entrance or exit area of a block, if you were gonna do a larger home, it'd be more appropriate on a corner. So maybe that's something we can count as a reason. But mainly, I think that our ability to increase the density of our city through lots of efforts, a lot of people over the years to where we see empty lots being developed, that's a win for the city. So what comes with that, in my mind, is adaptation of our codes and how to work with the citizens who buy these lots to create something that's lasting and will help us tell the story of Beaufort long days to come. So it fits the Beaufort style in my mind. I'm not a real fan of rafter tails or pigeon niches, and that's what the brackets will be, but a BB gun will solve that. So I don't have any other things on it. They've submitted all this stuff for final, it looks like, and that's what they're asking for. Comments?
No, I appreciate all the changes that were made based on our feedback last time. I have no problem with it other than that
Chimney might be.
chimney cap.
So,
I mean, that's,
I agree. And as I said, I would hate to see that roof have to change at some point. So I would like to make sure that those windows are appropriate in the back.
Sure. And I had one last thought, was I kind of like the idea of the mixed roof, and here's why. A metal roof on that particular building, when we already were struggling with the elevation issues, that asphalt shingle roof will actually soften the visual of the height, where you won't necessarily see the metal standing seam at that lower level, at street level. So I think it helps with that steep of pitch roof of 912, having asphalt compared to metal is a visual change, I think, that will help soften that edge. Had it been a metal roof, I think it would definitely stand out a lot more than it would otherwise. So
Yeah, I
I'm in
agree.
support of that. And,
mhm.
HBF brings up a good question though about the mixed, we don't typically see it, but in evolution of Beaufort, we see it because of natural tendencies to repair what you can with what you have. We went from wood shake shingles in early days to metal roof period to asphalt shingle period. And, you know, we like to have metal on contributing homes if we can keep it there. If we can't keep it there, and asphalt is the next backup to that. So it's an appropriate material. And, okay, so I don't have any other comments. Mr. Woods, any other further comments?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right, we'd like to get a motion on the table. Mr. Woods, you want to give us a motion?
How do we?
Yes,
work
and I
that?
will. And if we need a caveat, you know, to address the chimney, that
Breaking up on me. Breaking up a little bit. I didn't hear.
then I apologize. I'm trying to do multitasking. Yes, I would make the motion that we give final approval, but if we need a caveat regarding the height of the chimney cap, then that can be readdressed with staff, and staff. But my motion would be to approve, give it final.
I hear a motion to approve with staff looking at chimney cap if there's any alterations. Second?
Second.
Second over here to my right. Okay. Any further debate or questions? Hearing none, we'll call the question.
Aye.
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 Mr. Woods? Thank
Aye.
you. Thank you very much. All right, that closes out the agenda items for today. And we'll stick around a little bit and see if staff has anything for HRB. The members of the audience, you're welcome to stay as long as you'd like until they turn the lights off, or either you can just stick around. All right. We have anything that the board needs to know about?
The HRB/Planning Commission Subcommittee has been meeting, and I think we made some pretty good progress. So hopefully there'll be something moving forward in the next few months. So that's good. And I think just start thinking about what you'd like to do for like kind of a late fall tour, maybe October. Probably be a good time. It's not too warm and not too cold.
Okay. Are minutes available for those joint meetings?
No.
For those of us who,
We'll have to, I mean, we've got a lot of comments.
Just so it's in the public record, we have been meeting. I mean, it's an open door meeting, but it's the planning chairman, myself, and staff, historic Beaufort representative. Mr. Stewart's been in there for the Arts Council,
okay,
Arts District. But it's basically been a question and looking overall at what we've done. Is it working? What can we do better for specifically the Northwest Quadrant neighborhood? But in general, how can we try to improve the process to make it easier to understand, simpler to get through, still protecting the integrity, but focusing maybe a little bit more on the cultural side and the people side of the equation, and trying not to be so black and white about the conversations we're having with the codes. So looking forward to seeing the fruits of this labor go to the council, city council, who will hopefully give us what we're asking for. And then that doesn't mean there's no silver bullets at this point. What it means is it opens a door for more dialogue
yeah.
to try to solve some of these riddles, and maybe we'll be better off in years to come.
Then there'll be, we haven't actually written any ordinance or anything. We're recommending just the idea and the goal of the program of the city council. And then once that happens, I think I'll invite the whole HRB to be with the planning commission
Okay.
to actually review the proposed code change.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, I kind of feel left out.
So is there any
When you're the businesswoman of the year, we can never leave you out.
Thank you. Thanks, Kurt.
any training, anything like that coming up that we need to do?
Well, that's what I was stating. If you want to start thinking about like a tour or training in maybe October or late September, it's probably a good time to start thinking about it. We'll have to.
And I do appreciate the opportunity to tour the two homes on Washington and Haymar last week. It was very interesting to see where they came from to where they are today, what can be done. I was thrilled to see the results. So kudos to the Friedman Arts District.
All right, well, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion.
We're adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.